Our top story this Thursday, Montana is getting ready to welcome President Donald Trump into Great Falls this afternoon. MTN's Kaylee Collins is at the Montana Expo Park with more details attendees need to know before heading out to the event.
Yeah, good morning. Several hours from now, Air Force One will be touching down at Great Falls International Airport. The gates here at the Montana Expo Park are going to be locked until about 10:30, but that's whenever you can go ahead and start getting in line. The doors will open up at 1 p.m. Sheriff Bob Edwards is expecting around 6,000 people to come out to hear President Donald Trump speak here at 4. He says to expect a high law enforcement presence all day today. Officers from Lewis and Clark, Teton, and Choteau counties will be also here to help provide extra security. He does ask that those attending the rally or the protest to listen to directions from law enforcement because things can change quickly. There are a few things you should keep in mind, though, if you are coming out here to listen to President Trump speak. He asks that you don't bring weapons of any kind, such as guns, knives, pepper spray. Also, there will be no alcohol allowed. And also make sure that you're going to be wearing sunscreen because it's going to be a hot day with long lines. Reporting in Great Falls, Kaylee Collins, MTN News.
And when he's here, the president will be campaigning for Republican U.S. Senate candidate Matt Rosendale, who's challenging Democratic U.S. Senator Jon Tester. MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison caught up with Rosendale and talked to him about the president's visit.
Tonight in Great Falls, President Donald Trump will be visiting the state and talking about the campaign for the U.S. Senate here in Montana. I'm here this morning with the Republican candidate Matt Rosendale. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much, Mike. Good to be here.
And of course, Matt is running against U.S. Senator Jon Tester, a Democrat, and we have the president coming to campaign for you and against Senator Tester in Great Falls. I mean, you got to be pretty excited about the president coming here. What does it mean for you and the campaign?
First of all, it's quite an honor for the state of Montana to have the president come out here and make one of his own campaign stops. But for me as a candidate to know that the President Trump feels so strongly about this race that he's going to come out and help and campaign for me, it is an incredible, large honor. And that does mean a lot for our campaign. I think that it demonstrates that the president recognizes that just how thin the Republican majority is in the United States Senate, and that if he's going to continue to do his good work and advance this agenda of making America great again, that he needs another ally there, and that I am that ally.
And what do you think drew him to this campaign at this moment to come out and say, I need to campaign for Matt Rosendale, in July in Montana right now? Well,
I'm glad to have him out here whenever he would come, and I hope to see the president out here again before the fall. But Don Jr. called the day after the primary, congratulated me, and said that Montana is important to the president. He has made this a priority.
Now, the president, of course, is going to talk about what he wants to talk about. He'll talk about the race. Is there anything that you're kind of hoping or expecting him to talk about that may pertain specifically to this race and to Montana?
Yeah, Mike, I'll tell you, I hope that he will talk about the differences and the contrast between myself and Jon Tester, because really that's what this race should be about, instead of about personalities. And if we start looking at the differences between my record of reducing regulations and Jon Tester's record of increasing regulations, and my record of reducing spending and Jon Tester's record of increasing spending, if we focus on those things, my embrace of the resource development around the state to make sure that we can continue to produce those high-wage jobs, I will be thrilled.
Of course, also next week we expect the president to announce his nominee for the Supreme Court vacancy coming up here. What are you looking for in the qualities of a Supreme Court justice that's going to be nominated? And do you think he'll be talking about that as well?
I do, because that is going to be another big battle that we will see, and it's another place where we have seen those obstructionist tactics of the Democratic Party for President Trump to get his agenda through. We saw Jon Tester has supported justices like Kagan and Sotomayor with their progressive agenda, and yet when he had an opportunity to support a constitutionalist like Neil Gorsuch, he voted against him.
Now, of course, the president is popular in Montana, but there's a lot of people who don't like Donald Trump. I'm wondering if you think there's any concern on your part to associate yourself with Trump, if that's in any way a negative in this race.
Not at all, not at all. If we look at the reality Again, the reality is that the president's agenda has been good for the nation. It's been great for Montana. So when we look at the tax reform legislation that put more money in Montanans' pockets, we look at the regulations that he eliminated, 35,000 pages that have lifted a burden off of our small businesses. It's a good thing, and I'm glad to stand side by side with the president to try and advance that agenda.
Sounds like a lot of things we'll be hearing during the campaign. Thanks for joining us this morning, Matt, and we'll see you in Great Falls.
See you in Great Falls. Thank you.
MTN's team coverage will begin this afternoon when Air Force One touches down in Great Falls around 3:30. Q2's own Samantha Harrelson will be at Great Falls International Airport with up-to-the-minute coverage. That coverage will continue into the rally at the Four Seasons Arena. You can watch it all right here on Q2 and online at KTVQ.com and on Q2's Facebook page. Looking now at this morning's national headlines, the woman who climbed onto the base of the Statue of Liberty and forced a park shutdown is being arraigned in various charges this morning, including trespassing. Police were able to escort her back down after a nearly 4-hour standoff. Federal officials say the woman was protesting the separation of children from parents who illegally crossed the southern border. Officials in Thailand are still trying to figure out the best way to rescue the trapped soccer team. Navy SEALs and medics are staying with the 12 boys and their coach in the cave, nursing them back to health and teaching them how to use diving equipment. Rescuers are also pumping water out of the cave, trying to make it easier for them to get out. And journalists around the world are being asked to observe a moment of silence at 2:33 this afternoon, marking 1 week since the deadly shooting at the Capital Gazette newspaper in Annapolis. 5 employees at the paper were killed. A preliminary hearing for the man charged with their murders is scheduled for July 24th. Closer to home, an 86-year-old woman was killed near Acton when her car was hit from behind by a semi-truck. According to Montana Highway Patrol, the accident happened Wednesday around 12:30 p.m. MHP says the victim was driving a Mazda MX-5 and was attempting to turn right into a business. The semi-truck failed to slow down and collided with the woman's car. She and her passenger were transported to the hospital where the driver was pronounced dead. There is no word on the condition of the passenger at this time. The driver of the semi is a 26-year-old male from Calgary, Alberta. It appears drugs and alcohol were not factors in the crash. An investigation will determine if there will be any charges. Meanwhile, the reconstruction of the Sperry Chalet is on track to begin next week. Last month, Dick Anderson Construction was awarded the contract for more than $4 million for phase 1 of the project, which also saw a $12 million boost from the federal government. The chalet was badly burned last August during a wildfire that burned thousands of acres in the park. Construction will be completed in 2 phases beginning this summer and continuing into 2019.